Euromaxx highlights. In today's show, Art of Glass. Tradition meets modern art at the Berengo glassmakers in Murano. Paper innovator. British designer Jeremy May creates jewelry from paper. Design pioneer. We meet the first woman to design a mosque interior in Turkey. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a warm welcome to the show from Berlin. Peter Langenhahn from Augsburg in southern Germany is a sports photographer with a difference. Langenhahn takes thousands of photos at each sports event and then puts them together in a large format composite shot featuring all the most dramatic moments. Sounds complicated? Here's how it's done.
A photographic creation by Peter Langenhahn. It depicts 48 athletes in action, summing up in just one picture an entire day at the European Gymnastics Championships. Victory is juxtaposed with defeat. While some are frustrated over losing, others are celebrating. And in the meantime, the tournament continues. The picture is made up of hundreds of individual photos. In another picture, Peter Langenhahn focused on all the fouls that occur in one football match. Langenhahn loves to break the rules. In this picture, for example, he has 29 basketball players out on the court instead of the usual 10.
A photo is always a snapshot of a single moment. My idea was to capture the collected scene, the best of, so to speak, like a documentary film in one picture.
It's only when the photos are enlarged that you start to appreciate the detail in his pictures, like at this show-jumping event.
One of the most interesting things was when this horse charged right through a fence, and you see the poles being painstakingly put back into position and measured exactly. And then you start to notice these things that are a bit bizarre. Here you see quite an interesting scene, with the guy looking down on the woman as she's picking up the poles. You only start to notice these things when you begin working with the photos.
This time we've come to a motocross competition in Munich. The Night of the Jumps offers the perfect motif for Langenhahn's pictures, combining action, competition, spectacular jumps, and celebration. Langenhahn takes his photos from the top of the stands. He may take up to 3,000 images in one evening.
The major challenge here is the constantly changing light. Because it's so dark and the action is so fast-paced, I have problems even with the professional camera equipment.
He spent 3 hours photographing the event, and his task now is to put it all together. He may spend 2 or 3 months just working on a single picture that can be up to 100 gigabytes in size. Just saving it can take 6 hours. He uses the wait time to rest. When beginning a new picture, he first studies all his photos. He cuts out particular events, improves the picture quality, and begins putting them together.
You need incredibly high resolution for these pictures, because there's so much detail. This kind of resolution wouldn't work for an individual picture. You have to have lots and lots. So to get this kind of resolution with a motocross event, I'll need about 300 individual photos.
Peter Langenhahn says his pictures need to be enlarged to at least 2 meters by 1 meter to get the full effect. They cost 1,200 euros apiece. But first, they'll be exhibited in Dresden starting in August.
I, like many men, have a real problem buying jewellery for my wife. British landscape architect Jeremy May had the same problem, but he came up with a really clever solution, and meanwhile he's inundated with requests for his very special paper jewellery. This ring is made out of paper and has something to do with this book, and it's all very romantic as well.
The novel Jane Eyre was written in 1847 by Charlotte Bronte. It provided the raw material for this ring and its packaging. British designer Jeremy May was inspired to design these literary jewels
when he and his wife celebrated their first anniversary, their paper anniversary.
My idea came from wanting to make a gift for Eva, my wife, to celebrate our first wedding anniversary. So I decided that I would make her paper jewellery, and from that I came up with the idea of creating a ring out of laminated paper.
His range includes necklaces, rings, and bracelets. And he gets orders from all over the world. Most of his customers are bookworms from Europe, Asia, and the US. They appreciate the fact that each piece is handcrafted and unique, and made from their favorite book.
My motivation, I think, is to create beautiful things. I think that's my driving passion, that I want to create a new object every time. I'm not interested in making 10 pieces all exactly the same. I want to make one, finish it, move on.
Jeremy May lives and works in London. Customers come to him with a request for a piece of jewelry made from a specific book, and then he tracks down a suitable edition in flea markets and bookstores. Ideally, the book should be old but still in good condition, and it has to be thick so that the piece of jewelry can fit inside it.
There's something about a vintage book. It has a history. It has the author's thoughts, firstly, and secondly, it has another layer of information. It's a history of when people have read the book. They've made notes in here, and I've also found bookmarks, which are people's shopping lists or letters from sometimes 100 years ago.
The novel itself usually inspires the design. Once he has a sketch, he gets started on making the piece. In the first step, he draws the shape onto the first page of the book. Then he cuts it out of each page with a scalpel. Sometimes it takes him several days for one book. Jeremy May complements the design with colored paper. Then an adhesive is added to the paper layers to make the ring stable. The exact details of the lamination process are the designer's carefully guarded secret.
I found out that no one else is producing jewels like I'm producing them. And the lamination process is something that I've developed over 2 years. And it's taken up 2 years of my life of trial and error. So I'm not willing to share that information.
After about a week, the layered paper is hard enough to allow the artist to refine and polish it so that it fits on a finger. It gets several coats of varnish, which bring out the grainy texture. Takes about 8 weeks to finish a piece of jewelry.
The end product is like wood. So taking it from wood, and then from the wood it's turned into paper, and then from the paper back into this wood sort of material. And it's very strong, and I'm able to shape that into any form that I desire.
So far, Jeremy May has completed more than 150 pieces of jewelry. A ring costs €400. His work is even featured in collections shown in exhibitions in Britain, Germany, Russia, and Japan.
You're never going to run out of ideas. If you're working with books, you're always going to have new stories, and with new stories, you're going to have new designs.
He's currently developing a new collection, or in other words, the next chapter in a storybook career.
I think that jewellery is wonderful. 3D printing technology was developed to help industrial designers make prototypes of future products. Nowadays, 3D printing is cheaper and is being used in more varied fields of design and architecture. Young designers are discovering that 3D printing offers endless possibilities.
bowls, lamps, and rings, all made by a printer. With the latest generation of 3D printers, the possibilities for design appear endless. In Amsterdam, the Freedom of Creation Company, or FOC, specializes in product design using 3D printing technology. Designer Brian Garrett is fascinated by the technology.
As a designer, it's one of the most interesting fields because you can design something new every day and you don't have restrictions that you have with design normally. So you don't have to design molds, and you don't have minimum order quantities. You just make something in the morning and in the afternoon it's done and you have it in your hands.
The larger items are printed by high-tech devices that cost tens of thousands of euros, like one made by the German firm EOS. The printer then turns the digital file, layer by layer, into a three-dimensional physical object.
There's just a lot of new machines coming out, new materials. It's like every month there's a new development in 3D printing. And there's printing in rubbers, there's printing in ceramics, there's printing in glass, metal, you name it, you can pretty much print it.
Well-known designers like Maarten Baas are also interested in the technology. The Dutch designer plans to produce miniature copies of the chair he created to support a campaign at Amnesty International. The original chair, standing 5 meters tall, was built by hand. Now, FOC is to print a small format version.
It's for me a nice first step into this world and seeing the possibilities of it. And I'm pretty sure that I will work more with this technique.
Even shoes can be printed. The new technology promises to make customized design more affordable and available to more people.
I think in 10 years, people will send their products over the internet and share it with friends, like we now share things on Facebook, for example, and your friends can just download the design and print it at home with their home printer.
Companies like Shapeways in the Netherlands are already putting the idea into action. Customers can modify a design or create their own and upload it to the company for printing. At Open Design City in Berlin, amateur designers can work on site and print their own designs. Co-founder Philip Stefan purchased a small 3D printer, which can print small objects made of plastic.
Here in Open Design City, we use it to show what's possible,
to open people's eyes to the idea of designing with a computer, rather than building objects with their own hands.
A chess piece designed on the computer can be printed here for less than 10 euros. The printing process takes about 15 minutes. Although the printer is more complicated to operate than an ordinary one, it's relatively affordable at 800 euros.
The
software is for people who like to sink their teeth into things, who like looking through hundreds of parameters to figure it out. It's not something for the end user, who just expects it to work.
At least not quite yet. But in the past years, major manufacturers have started bringing 3D printers to market that are simpler to operate. And they might soon become affordable as well. At the University of Vienna, a prototype 3D printer is being developed that's set to cost 1,200 euros. Soon, customized designs like this chess figure could become a part of everyday life. And until that happens, we can give our fantasies free rein.
Now it's time to meet a pioneering interior designer from Turkey who's making inroads into a male domain. Zeynep Fadillioglu originally studied computer science before she came to interior design. Recently, she became the first woman in Turkey to oversee the building of a mosque.
The Sakirin Mosque in the Üsküdar area of Istanbul. Bright, modern, and unconventional. The building has assured Zeynep Fadillioglu a place in the architectural history books. The opening of the mosque 2 years ago attracted massive media coverage. Fadillioglu is the first female architect to have designed a mosque in the Muslim world.
I hadn't understood that as a woman it was so different. I was always very much touched because there was no modern architect or modern designer who had been commissioned a building as such. But understanding that there was no woman heading me was of course another incredible, touchy position, I would say.
Zeynep Fadillioglu radically reworked the original plans to create a very modern interior, another break with tradition, since Turkish mosques usually copy the style of their 16th century Ottoman predecessors. Fadillioglu incorporated an unusual amount of glass, for example, and she designed the mosque in such a way that women can also enter through the main hall.
It brings everybody together in that, the whole family together, rather than differentiating. What is understood in the late years is like the understanding for women is different and so on. I don't believe in that. It's just that prayer area for women, we reserved mostly the balcony, but it's not that they cannot enter anywhere else.
She runs a busy and tight daily schedule. She has her own chauffeur, and her car is effectively her second office. Successful women like Fadillioglu remain underrepresented in the international architecture and design scene. Most high-profile projects are still made by their male colleagues. Colleagues like Reim Koolhaas, Norman Foster, and Renzo Piano.
Most male constructors or people who are giving the projects, maybe they are mostly men and they are maybe commissioning because they are working easier with males, them. But yes, we don't have enough women architects because women, when they have kids, they tend to stop working. When they get married, some of them decides to be provided for.
Fadillioglu has always valued being financially independent, although she entered her profession in a roundabout way. After school, she left Istanbul to study computer science in Britain, and later art history and design as well. She then worked as a systems analyst before switching to interior design. She got married and had a daughter, and in 1995, she set up ZF Design. Being her own boss while managing a family proved a challenge.
Trying to achieve is hard work, and keeping there is another hard work too. So I don't think you can have anything easily. So I have sacrificed a lot. I have sacrificed of having ample time, having pleasure. I have always worked practically.
Her business is flourishing and now has a workforce of around 24, most of them women. Fadillioglu has made a name for herself designing hotels and homes for high society clients across the world. She's adamant that there is a massive untapped potential among women.
I think when women do things, they really do it properly and they really work hard. And I see the future as people are talking of what kind of powers are we going to have. I think the women power is going to be really very visible in the very near future.
The Sakirin Mosque in her native Istanbul set the ball rolling. Zeynep Fadillioglu and her team have since designed 2 more mosques in the Gulf Emirate of Qatar. Her future projects are also likely to break with conventions, though the male-dominated work environment probably won't change in the immediate future.
Finally, we're off to Italy for an extraordinary exhibition of artworks made out of glass. In the same lagoon as Venice is the famous glass-making island of Murano. Adriano Berengo founded a glassworks there 2 decades ago, and recently he invited some well-known artists to work together with his glass blowers to create some brand new and intriguing works of art.
Art made of glass is extremely varied. The material offers infinite possibilities of expression. The Glass Stress exhibition in Venice is showcasing the work of 30 international artists, including German sculptor Thomas Schutte. Everything on show in Palazzo Franchetti in the center of Venice was made in nearby Murano. For centuries, glass from Murano was regarded as a luxury, coveted by the royal courts of Europe. Today, tourists are the main customers. Glass artistry is now mass-produced. But glassblowers can do much more. They've preserved their century-old tradition. This piece is one of a kind. It's based on a design by a Spanish artist. The founder of this studio, Adriano Berengo, wants to revive traditional glass artistry. He's invited artists to design objects to be produced in glass.
They come here with their drawing, with their sketches, with their provocation, sometimes with their impossible dreams, and together with the glass master, we translate those dreams into tri-dimensional reality in glass.
Not all the artists have experience with glass, but that's the challenge for the glassblowers. They only need to glance at the designs to tell whether or not they can be transformed into glass.
The colors that glass can take on are different from those that are available to painters. The color gradation and saturation is different with glass. The colors are cooler. I remember an artist who wanted a dark pink, but with glass, you get light pink. So he had to settle for that.
Part of the Glass Stress exhibition is on display in Murano, in the Berengo Studio's former workshop. These animals are beautiful and dangerous. They're made of sharp-edged shards of glass by Polish sculptor Marta Klanowska. A blood-red Venetian candelabra has fallen on the floor and is being picked apart by crows. It's a reflection of the fate of Murano's glass tradition, by Spanish artist Javier Perez.
Glass is a very paradoxical material. It's liquid and solid at the same time. It has something fleeting about it, and it appears to solidify in air. I think it's interesting to use a material that's practically invisible to give shape to an idea.
Some pieces are politically inspired. This work deals with the detention of Chinese artist Ai Weiwei. Russian artist Oleg Kulik has packaged his message imaginatively.
I was interested in making a sculpture out of the luxurious material glass with a message that was the opposite of glamorous. This person is in prison because he spoke out for freedom of expression in China. The contrast between a political topic and a decorative material, I found it exciting. It's a work people don't know how to react to.
The Russian artist likes working with glass. Those invited to come here can try out whatever they want.
The idea is to foster experimentation, to develop new objects. Adriano Berengo believes art glass from Murano still has an exciting future.
And that's it for this week. Check out our website where you can call up loads of different shows. But for now, bye-bye.